Namaste. Greetings from Savannah, Georgia. My name is Timothy Halloran, and this is a bi-weekly astrological forecast for the final week of 2016 and the first weeks of 2017. So we're almost there. We're almost through this infamous year of 2016. Today is Thursday, December 29th, the day of our new moon in Capricorn, which was exactly taking place earlier this morning, about 2 a.m. on the east coast of the United States. And so, this video is getting out a little later than I would have hoped. And yet, this has been such a dense, busy, intense, happening time. You know, I came out here a few days ago and did one of my infamous train wrecks where I just could not get what I wanted out. All the neighbors had their lawnmowers and leaf blowers, and so I had to withdraw and reflect and process and digest so much of what's happening at this time. And there is so much that's really being introduced to us right now that are going to be some of the major themes of 2017. And we have a Mercury retrograde going on. There's a lot to process. There's lots of reflection going on. There's lots to digest. And the things that we're digesting are some very massive, somewhat heavy things. I mean, this is not necessarily a fun holiday season. And so, I'm going to begin by rewinding the clock back to the winter solstice, December 21st. This is the moment when the sun enters the sign of Capricorn, when the Earth on its axis is tilted in such a way where that invisible line called the Tropic of Capricorn is exactly aligned with the sun's most direct incoming rays. Because as we know, the tropical zodiac is an Earth-Sun-based system and not based off of the constellations. And so, this is when we experience the greatest amount of darkness and nighttime up here in the northern hemisphere. And in many respects, this does correlate with the zodiac sign of Capricorn, which is arguably one of the most serious signs of the zodiac. It has to do with physical security, what's going on in the real three-dimensional world in a type of practical, physical, measurable way. And Capricorn is a sign of mastery, ruled by the planet Saturn, which is the planet that brings us into our total maturity as human beings, not just as fanciful idealists, but integrated, practical benefactors and workers in the world, actually creating and building and structuring beneficial things in our own lives and the lives as others. And so when it comes to Capricorn, we deal with themes of accountability, getting down to business, being responsible for our own lives and our own situations, which thereby makes us authorities in our own lives and our own situations, capable of exerting force, of being strong. On December 20th, Mercury turned retrograde at 15 degrees Capricorn, just about to complete a cycle with Pluto, but then froze stationary a degree before Pluto and is now moving retrograde. And Mercury will move back into Sagittarius on January 4th, and then station direct on January 8th at 28 degrees Sagittarius, just a couple degrees away from the galactic center. And so this Mercury retrograde is very powerful, beginning with Pluto and ending on the galactic center. And this Mercury retrograde, primarily happening in the sign of Capricorn, is causing us to reflect on very deep issues. Pluto is the planet of the unconsciousness, the majority of the iceberg beneath the water, more than what meets the eye. It is complicated, deep, oftentimes buried or hidden dynamics, which Mercury has been focusing on. And this was going on this whole last week. For those of you who celebrated Christmas, you might have noticed there was some penetrative intensity. The themes that are coming up and being talked about are real. With this Mercury retrograde beginning in Capricorn, it's bringing up these themes: culture, tradition, the past, upbringing, in a way where we are having the opportunity to see the distortions that have existed in our world, in our society, in our history, culturally, in our family structures, in our upbringings, in our gender, moral codes, expectations and obligations coming from authorities, coming from our governments, etc. Saturn in Capricorn is the structure. It is the container. It is the rules and the regulations which structures and gives forms to life. It is the church as opposed to the religion. It's the temple, it's the mosque as opposed to the essence. That is Saturn. It is bringing the essence, the ideals, the ideas into reality. And yet we are seeing how these structures have been distorted, how there have been particular behaviors and mental conceptual patterns coming from our past which could have misled us into means of relating to ourselves and other people and our world in a way which is not the healthiest that it could be. And so in many ways we can be experiencing how we have become prisoners of our own world and our own situation coming from these deep and complicated and murkier past situations. And so this whole Mercury retrograde taking us until January 8th is really about this rewinding, going back into the past, recalling these situations, going back into our childhood, going back into high school, seeing how these behaviors formed, seeing how these perspectives, these belief systems, these orientations to our world, to our own masculinity, femininity, to our own family structures, to our own relationships, to our own work, duties, obligations to the world, etc. How these things have taken form. And what we can say is that it goes deeper and there's more there, and the original causes of these situations are bigger, they're heavier, and they're broader, perhaps more all-pervasive than we previously realized. And so Mercury going back into Sagittarius on the 4th and stationing on the galactic center is really an opportunity. It's a gift to us to rewind back into Sagittarius, which is natural law. It's the actual harmony of nature, of what's actually going on, irrelevant from man-made systems, man-made religions, and man-made beliefs. It's taking us back into that natural harmony which is found in the world and in life and the seasons of change, the dance of life, etc. in that type of more so innocent and undistorted way. You know, Sagittarius gives us the understanding that there is a season for all things. It's much less of a mechanical, black and white political machine than we have made it into this world. And so Mercury going back into Sagittarius, which is ruled by Jupiter in Libra, is going to give us the opportunity to tap more back into the natural way of doing things, so we have the opportunity to decondition and deconstruct some of these limiting, oppressive, heavy patterns and cycles which we have essentially been imprisoned in and held captive by, both in ourselves and in the world at large. And so these are some big themes that are going on. On December 20th, the day Mercury turned retrograde, Mars also entered the sign of Pisces. And so Mars is completing a cycle with Neptune, have just entered Pisces. And until that conjunction happens on January 1st, there can be particularly the sense of unwinding, particularly up until this new moon today, on December 29th. There's been all this unwinding, processing, loosening, guts getting spilled, with that Mercury retrograde beginning on Pluto. This last week has been a lot of critical decisions, important conversations that could have been really stirring the pot, bringing a whole lot to the surface, creating this drama, creating conflicts. It's an exciting time, etc. And what this is fundamentally giving us the opportunity to do is to restructure and to create new cycles at this time, new rituals, new behaviors, new patterns that are allowing us to instate a deeper sense of purpose, being evoked by what we are seeing that is wrong, or that is in generally falling apart, or is a crisis that we are experiencing in ourselves, in our relationships, in our world, in our work, etc. We are seeing everything that's wrong, so that way we can unite a deeper sense of purpose and meaning with what is right. And we are having to be the ones to initiate this, as we're going to talk about with these long-term transits going on between Jupiter, Uranus, Saturn, and Chiron that began right now and are introducing this entire year of 2017. The understanding with this Uranus-Jupiter opposition, which is a thoroughly revolutionary and exciting, inventive, pioneering transit, which can be having sudden realizations and shifts of perspectives happening through all of these conflicts, digesting realizations, etc., is that we can't wait for other people to initiate these things for us. We have to be the ones to speak up and do what we are not seeing other people do. That is our call to action. That is our propulsion to embody this deeper purpose and meaning in our life. And this new moon in Capricorn happening today is the most wonderful opportunity for us to sow the seed of intention in terms of how we are going to structure and strengthen our own routines, our own usage of our physical willpower and drive and determinism in a more mature and disciplined way, taking greater self-accountability for our lives and what's around us, so that way we can create and initiate new, healthier patterns where we are the authority, we're in charge, we're not waiting for other people to fix it for us, and we're not blaming the people that are messing it up, because we are being called to action by what's messed up. And we are taking and seizing that opportunity in order to be the new captains, the new CEOs, the new bosses, the authorities of our own lives, which is going to give us more strength of purpose and meaning and direction in our lives, which can hopefully make us feel more satisfied with who we are and what we're doing, because you know what? It's important. This age that we are living in is a critical time. This is not a vacation lifetime, and this is not an age where we want to be victims of what's around us. Rather, we want what's around us to be the motivating force that is awakening our passion and compassion to become the leaders, the warriors, and the teachers, the wise elders that we naturally are. This is what Capricorn is. Capricorn is the wise elder who has learned from real three-dimensional life experience. With this Mercury retrograde, with Saturn being square to Chiron right now, which is an ongoing theme through 2017, we are seeing how we have experienced abandonment. We are seeing the hindrances that we have previously experienced in our life. All of the insecurities, the fears that are deeply there in our own unconsciousness and our depth, repeated themes of abandonment, of letdown, of fears, insecurities, are being brought to our surface, are being brought to our attention, so we can illuminate these dynamics. So that way we can be those wise, mature, elder guides for others, having learned from the real world, which is not a tea party. We're not getting served cake any of these years, you might have noticed. And that's the real world. In many respects, we have been born into this dog-eat-dog, fight-to-survive type of world. But is that the world that we want to continue to live in? No. We have to change the causes that are making this into a dog-eat-dog, fight-to-survive world by having to introduce nurturing, empathetic empathy, compassion, family-orientedness back into the world, which requires great amounts of forgiveness and acceptance and embracing the situations in which we find ourselves. But then we can let those things empower our direction and our purpose through life. This is what I did not get in the past. So I'm going to be the one to give it to myself and to give it to others. This is how I got beaten up in the past. So this is how I am going to protect and defend others and myself from being beaten up in this way again. This is what I had taken away from me in the past, so I'm going to give it to myself and to others in the future. That is the time in which we're in right now, and this new moon today is the time for us to sow these seeds of strength that's going to take us into being the superheroes of tomorrow. And so Mars having moved into Pisces on the 20th, that can be a lot of directionlessness and meaninglessness if we do not unite our own willpower and purpose with bigger, more collective endeavors. If we have no spiritual orientation and we don't give a shit about anybody but ourselves, Mars and Pisces can be very difficult because it's just like, well, what do I do? What's the point? What's my meaning? What's my purpose? Well, we have to unite that meaning and purpose with more big picture collective ideals. Pisces is a very spiritual sign. It's the most spiritual sign we can say. It's the sign of unconditional love. It's the sign of sacrificing our own selfish desires and intentions as Mars in an endeavor and a meaning and a purpose that is giving back charitably, lovingly, generously back to the collective, the world, future generations, the children of today. Venus goes into Pisces next Tuesday, January 3rd, and then is going to go over the moon's south node. I should also mention when Mercury is stationing direct on the 8th, that weekend of the 7th and the 8th, the first weekend of January, the Sun is also going to be passing Pluto and squaring Uranus. And so that is another exciting and transformative first weekend in January where there can be significant changes, readjustments, and realizations. Venus on the south node of Pisces can be this reflecting at past ideals going on the first weekend of January. How have we been misled by collective beliefs and ideals that have not really helped us to unite our relationships with the greater purpose and meaning of what it means to be a human being alive in this day and age? Many of us were brought up, raised by Walt Disney movies, which is very much about the prince and the princess forming their perfect lives together so they can go off and live in the castle forever and ever, happily ever after. And that type of idealistic rose-tinted glasses image, it doesn't give us the full purport and meaning of why two souls actually come together in the most deep and meaningful way, of what marriage and commitment is supposed to reflect, which is going to be a theme in this beginning part of January. We'll have Juno moving up to Saturn. We'll have Venus moving up to Neptune next, about mid-January. And so, it's really about, again, the purpose of relationships, two people coming together, is for two individuals to help one another to get out of their past snares, get out of their own blockages, the parts of themselves that lead to self-sacrifice and becoming the people that we truly are not. In love, we see the other person clearly and we see their potential. So that way we can help one another to step into that potential, and that is spiritual work. It's not always easy to go into the shadow of the other and to see all the messed up things that happened to them from their past, their childhood, their own cultural conditioning, etc. This is the stuff that we can really be doing for each other, is helping one another to find deeper purpose and meaning. As we step out of these snares, that's going to be unique for each and every one of us. It's going to be different, dependent on whether you're a man or a woman, or what race you are, and what country you live in, and what the government and the people in the mainstream media is saying about that gender, that culture, that nationality, etc. It's going to be different for each and every one of us. The little, traps that we fell into in the past, that was not even our fault. This is the world that we were born into, and it is a necessary step for us to become entrapped by the world in which we're born into, in order to blossom into the liberators that we came here to be. You understand? This is important to understand in maneuvering through these difficult, challenging times, is understanding that these afflictions and things that happened to us in the past that have been oppressive and not fun, those are the things that make us empowered to be the unique, liberating, compassionate individuals that we are. This is Chiron square Saturn stuff. That was happening exact yesterday on the 28th. Saturn is also in trine to Uranus, and this will be happening again in spring and fall time, but generally it's happening all of 2017. Saturn in trine to Uranus is another very powerful transit, and even though the trine is stereotypically called a harmonious or an easy aspect, it's an incredibly powerful aspect, particularly between the planets Saturn and Uranus, which are very different from one another in many respects. Saturn is like the crystallizing, forming, structuring, constricting force that forces us to become masters of this day and age. It's, again, Capricorn and Saturn is 2 feet on the ground. You want to know who a real spiritual teacher is? You will see that they have 2 feet on the ground, and they're not just drifting around in outer space with fanciful ideals and nice beliefs. They are doing actual productive work that speaks for itself. The proof is in the pudding. The results are there. Capricorn, prove it, make it happen, build it, is Saturn. Uranus, on the other end, is Prometheus, breaking the rules, going behind Zeus's back, stealing divine fire from heaven and bringing it down to humanity, allowing for humanity to evolve and progress through that type of rule breaking. And so this Saturn trine to Uranus is like breaking down the old, structuring the new, breaking down the old, structuring the new. It's electrical and invigorating, and then it freezes and cools down. It's electrical, invigorating, freezes and cools down. It's like if you've ever seen a video of the lake or the ocean where the waves are freezing and pushing that ice forward and then dissolving back into the ocean and pushing that frozen ice forward. That's that type of energy that we're working with in 2017. As Saturn is also simultaneously in a square to Chiron. And Chiron requires, as human beings, the understanding, the higher, wiser perspective that each and every one of us has to experience. Pain, suffering, claustrophobia, in prison-like situations. In order for our hearts to be awakened to compassion, in order for us to be awakened into action, helping others to step out of their own prisons. We have to go into prison and then be the Harry Houdinis who find the keys, who do the wriggling to get ourselves out of the straitjacket, so that way we can make those discoveries, find those tools and methods and healing procedures. Chiron is the healer. By going into the wound, by going into the suffering, we find those realizations which makes us qualified to help and heal others. It is necessary to be a healer, to have to go into prison and to go into your own wounds and past, to bring more awareness to those places so that way realizations and discoveries can happen that then gives you those tools and discoveries to distribute to others. So that is an important thing to understand at this time in the midst of all of these things going on, and that will remain to be a theme throughout 2017 is Saturn square to Chiron. This is a big long-term cycle that is happening in a closing square. We're at that 3/4, 75% through this cycle is a big turning point. This cycle began in 1966 when Saturn was conjoined Chiron in Pisces, opposite to Uranus conjoined Pluto in Virgo. That was one of the most major transits that made the 1960s what it was. And now we are here in the year 2016, 2017, that is a major turning point in many of the endeavors that were sown in the 1960s, having to do with the revival of feminism, the revival of alternative healing, of astrology, of belief systems being beyond the culture of behaviors and practices being beyond the culture. We have the hippie movement, peace, love, liberation, etc. Well, this closing square is not going to complete until, I believe, 2028. About another decade is when we will have another Saturn-Chiron conjoinment, when Pluto is in Aquarius. And we're going to see much more momentum at that time in another decade that is about the reformation of traditions, structures, culture in a way that honors the actual humanitarian qualities of what it means to be a human being, honoring the diversity of uniqueness and the brilliance of every human being, that is, regardless of nation, gender, nationality, race, etc. And so this Jupiter-Uranus opposition is another very exciting, revolutionary, liberating transit. And one of the themes that it can very much be bringing in is feminism. And this is something that is difficult to communicate, because when I make these videos, sometimes we talk about the divine feminine, the divine masculine, which are energetic qualities or properties that exist within each and every human being, regardless of gender. As we move more into the age of Aquarius that honors the humanitarian qualities, it says it doesn't matter what your gender is, those qualities can exist in varying degrees in every single person. However, when we're talking about female and male in time, in history, in our culture, obviously there have been different prescriptions assigned for different gender roles. And in many respects, we're still crawling out of the 1950s stay-at-home housewife age, where the wife is supposed to raise the children and do all the homely things, and the father's supposed to be the Marlboro man who's rough and tough and goes to work and comes home and never talks to the kids and never talks about his feelings because they're too sentimental. So when we're talking about feminism and the empowerment of women, we're talking about women acknowledging their own masculine qualities, which means that women can also go out, go to work, be in charge, be incredibly intelligent, strong, loud, capable voices in this world. And we need more powerful women stepping up, and that's going to be going on this next year. This is a revolutionary transit that is, again, through our own pain and afflictions of the past, awakening the passion in us that needs to be awakened in order for revolution to occur. So if you are a woman and you have noticed that you've been oppressed because of this gender stereotype, oh, women are supposed to smile all the time, women are supposed to have this beauty standard, are supposed to look this way, are supposed to act this way. This is a all-pervasive gender stereotype that has imprisoned many women. Now, it's not saying this is 100% true for 100% of all people, but is this generally true? Yes, it is. And so this is what we're talking about with feminism and the re-empowerment of women. When we're talking about the returning of the divine feminine, which is also a part of the feminist movement, this also means that men are integrating the softer feminine qualities that have been in the past prescribed to women. Men are also allowed to express their feelings. Men are also can be sensitive. Men can also be serving and committed to their families and their partners. And so many men are going to be invigorated by their own past oppressiveness and restrictiveness and getting beat up by other macho men saying, oh, you're being, a prissy, wimp, whatever. And those men are going to be awakened by their own past dynamics, evoking this passion, creating for revolutionary leaders to start to stand up and to speak from their own experience, being strengthened by who they are, being shaped by their own real life, to speak about these radical revolutionary changes of perspectives that's going to be going on this next year. Jupiter is in Libra up until October of 2017. This is about really having illuminated this potential harmony and balance, and Libra is the scales, it is justice and equality. And Jupiter will be opposite to Uranus, again, particularly spring to summertime, when those planets will be turning retrograde and then direct. And so a lot of this revolutionary energy will be continued throughout 2017, as we also have that continued Saturn-Trine Uranus square to Chiron, the restructuring of fundamental patterns in order to liberate future potentials through the healing of our own soul's innocence, which has been trampled upon and beaten down by culture, traditions, governmental, patriarchal, authoritative power regimes in the past. Okay, so you understand how we're having all of these themes very much brought up in our world at large, in our personal situations, and how all of that, despite it being unpleasant, and it is unpleasant. I'm not going to say put a smile on and see all the shit that's lying beneath the surface as we start to dig through, the garbage dumps of our human history. This isn't fun work. We got to put some elbow grease into this. This is Capricorn season. This is a new moon in Capricorn conjoined this Mercury retrograde, which is allowing us to do all of this past conceptual mental reflection in order for us to understand, okay, this is what I need to be now, and I can't wait for anybody else. I am going to do and be what I'm seeing other people's aren't doing and being yet, and I'm not going to wait for a team of people. I have to be strong, I have to be in charge, and I have to speak up for what is most important at this time. This new moon is being ruled by Saturn, which is exactly square to Chiron right now. We have to use the pain of abandonment and insecurity, and essentially Chiron in Pisces wants to heal our soul's innocence by showing how that innocence has been smeared over and distorted and buried beneath all the expectations, obligations of society, culture. And again, this can be the difference between the church and the essence, as it was exemplified by personalities such as Jesus, the Buddha, Krishna, Muhammad, etc. Those are personalities that encapsulate and embody the essence, and they're not even gone. They're still here and can be communicated with. Versus the church, the regimes, the structures, the book of law, the rules and regulations, the pressure, the expectation, the obligation, the fears and the insecurities of damnation, of doing things wrong, the fears and the insecurities of there being demons and bad people out there that we have to convert and condemn, etc. How much has those things affected and damned our own soul's innocence? Not even to mention the amount of patriarchal, male-dominant, oppressive of women and femininity concepts became established in the church and the book of law, etc., and how those things have conditioned us. So this new moon, trine to the north node of the moon in Virgo, this is the opportunity for us to step up and to be the one to be in charge, be the boss, be the authority, be strong, make these changes happen, implement the new rituals, implement the new routines. Saturn and Capricorn is like weightlifting. Is it fun? Meh, maybe not, like birthday party fun. If you haven't worked out in a long time, it's especially not fun. You are sore, your muscles hurt. But the more you lift those weights, the easier it becomes, the more you start to actually feel good in your own body, and then you start to enjoy working out. So this is the time. The North Node's only in Virgo up until spring of next year. We need to implement these new healthier, practical rituals, routines. Go do your yoga, do your acupuncture, go out and get your therapist. Start talking about these things. Start doing these practical, implementing the skills. We have to actually do the work and implement the things that we are knowing and learning and realizing in our minds. Okay? So, long story short, Mercury retrograde is doing all of this reviewing, all of this processing, all of this digging up and turning over and allowing for Jupiter opposite to Uranus, new breakthroughs, realizations, and revolutionary new perspectives to occur. Mercury retrograde in Capricorn is processing the past, so Jupiter opposite to Uranus, we can see these things in a new light. So Saturn square to Chiron, we can take that higher perspective and that new light and embrace the prison-like hindrances and the abandonment that happened in our past as fuel to the fire for our own passion to be the healers and the leaders of the future. This is happening through Jupiter, the Sun, and Neptune is our purpose. The be-all, end-all goals. We are spiritual beings. We are children of God. We are all angels, and we have to remember our love of one another, service and charity to one another. The essence is the spiral. We're all in a dance. It's all a part of the dance of life. It's all still a part of the seasons of beauty. Even when it's difficult, even when it's winter time, even when we are measuring, do we have enough food to survive the winter? It's a part of these seasons and these cycles of change. So that way we can embrace that deeper purpose, that dance and that meaning, that candle flame, that light within our hearts. That is our purpose that we have to instate into reality at this time and make it real via Pluto and Saturn, the signs of Scorpio and Capricorn. It's about making that purpose in reality, taking that light and those ideals and anchoring that into the complicated, dark, entangled world that we are born into, the quagmire. We take that light, that purpose, that meaning as spiritual warriors, go down into it, bring healing awareness there. We start to untangle, and we start to be able to offer that same light and that same flexibility and confidence, that reassurance that this is going to help you. This has helped me. This has liberated me. This has made me strong, which makes you an inspiration to other people. So that way you can be that wise elder offering that practical, real-world guidance to others. And people will gravitate towards you. We're dealing a lot with these influences, these gravitational poles, yes? When we master Capricorn, when we master Saturn, that is how we learn to function within gravity. 2 feet on this earth. I have gravity that's pulling me into the past. It's all of my conditioning coming from my parents, my religious upbringing, etc. The world I was born into is a gravitational force. But there's also a gravitational force that is my higher self, my heart, my love, my aspiration for a better world that's also pulling me. There's a gravitational force that's anchoring me on this earth. There's bills to pay, there's children to feed, etc. And there's a gravitational force that's leading me to my aspirations. I have unique understanding. I am an inventor, I am brilliant, and I am a creator. And I want to share my own values and my own interests with others in a way to start conversations and to spark these chemical reactions that is the ball rolling forward into future years of very radical and fundamental changes happening in ourselves and our world that is carrying us into a completely new chapter in a completely new book. So it is serious, it is critical, and it is important. And we need to be those warriors who are embracing and accepting the roles, embracing how strong, how badass, how powerful, and capable we are as human beings, so that way we can step into these roles. And so I am absolutely offering the best to all of you. Thank you so much, all of you who watch this channel. As of this morning, I have officially reached 10,000 subscribers on YouTube, which is like, wow. I never really anticipated there being so many people interested in watching this crazy guy babble here on YouTube. So thank you so much for all of you guys who have been supporting and following me throughout the years. In regards to all of these transits, I really look forward to personally implementing some new things going on in the future. I want to do more workshops, more classes, start to work in a way that's sort of offering back more to the collective. So that's a part of my own intention and aspiration going into this new year of 2017. And again, thank you so much for all of your support. And I hope to put a couple of videos out soon that's going to be thanking you again and explaining my own personal process that I've been going through, because it's been a lot happening. I mean, let's all give ourselves pats on the back for making it through 2016. That was the year of Saturn square Neptune, which was fundamentally about ending naivety, And so we're all a little bit more mature and a little bit more grounded than we were, hopefully, a year ago. And that's been some hard work that we've been doing. It hasn't been easy for the dreamers, the philosophers, the creators, the spiritualists. And so, you guys, give yourselves pats on the back for making it through this year of 2016. And I really look forward to connecting with you all on an individual basis through my birth chart readings, which I continue to do more and more of. And also potentially meeting those of you who will be in Costa Rica in spring of 2017 at Astrology Rising. Really look forward to connecting with the brilliant entourage of amazing astrologers that will be there in 2017 as well. So it's amazing to be a part of this soul family. You guys make me feel so blessed. I thank you so much, and I wish all the best and the same right back to you. So much love. Namaste.